Ah! That's right! That's right! Get up! Get up! That's what you get! Look at you! Ship all banged up! Who's the man?
When it comes to classic 90s blockbusters, Independence Day usually lands near the top of the list. It had big explosions, larger-than-life characters, and, of course, Will Smith punching an alien and saying that unforgettable line about Welcome to Earth. So, it's no surprise that fans have been holding out hope for years that Independence Day 3 might actually happen. As you know from the title of this video, we're going to talk about what director Roland Emmerich recently said about the chances of teaming up with Will Smith again, why the sequel Resurgence made things so complicated, and how the franchise unexpectedly just crossed paths with Predator thanks to a brand new Easter egg in Predator Badlands. It's a bunch of different angles to cover, but they all connect in interesting ways if you're looking at where this sci-fi legacy could go next. Back in 1996, Roland Emmerich's Independence Day was the definition of a summer blockbuster. It combined alien invasions with disaster movie spectacle, which made sense, since Emmerich was already being called the king of disaster movies after projects like Stargate and later The Day After Tomorrow. What really made Independence Day pop, though, was the cast. Will Smith was right on the edge of superstardom, Jeff Goldblum was in peak quirky scientist mode, and Bill Pullman gave a rousing speech that still circulates every 4th of July. The movie was full of memorable moments, but nothing hit harder than the destruction of the White House. That visual stuck with people because it was shocking, detailed, and just plain cool to watch on the big screen in 1996. Because of its success, making a sequel seemed inevitable. But here's where things get messy. Independence Day Resurgence finally arrived in 2016, a full 20 years later. Emmerich returned to direct, and Goldblum was back as David Levinson, but Will Smith was nowhere to be seen. Reports say Smith dropped out just 2 weeks before filming started, supposedly because of scheduling conflicts and because he didn't want to revisit an old role when he was focused on newer projects. Whatever the reason, the filmmakers killed off his character, Captain Stephen Hiller, off-screen. That move was controversial because Hiller had been the heart of the first movie. Without him, the sequel struggled to recapture that same spark. Resurgence picked up 20 years after the original, with humanity having used alien technology to prepare for another invasion. It had huge visuals again, with massive ships and sprawling battles. On Rotten Tomatoes, it sits at a painful 29%, and even audiences only gave it about 30%. Compare that to the original's much stronger reception, and it's clear people weren't impressed. Box office numbers told the same story. The first film raked in over $817 million worldwide, while Resurgence stalled at $389 million. That's not terrible, but it's a big drop, especially for a franchise that was supposed to be bigger and bolder the second time around. Because Resurgence didn't live up to expectations, Independence Day 3 never got off the ground. Roland Emmerich has admitted that it's unlikely at this point. In a recent interview with The Playlist, he was asked if he could ever reunite with Will Smith for another sequel. His answer was blunt. He said, "Well, yeah, I've been like, Will's character died in number 2, but also Disney now has the decision to make it, which is even worse, because they never ever did my deal." That line about Disney is important. Since Disney now owns 20th Century Studios, the future of Independence Day is in their hands, and they haven't shown much interest in reviving it. Emmerich doesn't sound optimistic, and considering Hiller is canonically dead, it's tough to see how Smith would come back anyway. Even though that sounds like the end of the road, sci-fi franchises have a funny way of sticking around. There's always talk about reboots, spin-offs, or reimaginings, and here's where things get interesting. Predator Badlands just dropped its first trailer, and sharp-eyed fans noticed a direct reference to Independence Day hidden inside. That's right. Predator and Independence Day are now loosely connected through an Easter egg, which opens up a bunch of wild possibilities. Predator Badlands, directed by Dan Trachtenberg, is the next chapter in the Predator series following the success of Prey in 2022. This new movie flips the formula by making a Yautja, the alien hunters we usually see as villains, the protagonist. It's already a bold move, but the trailer took it further by teasing connections to other sci-fi worlds. Elle Fanning's character is revealed to be a Weyland-Yutani android, tying Badlands to the Alien universe. That alone would have been enough for fans to freak out, but then came the kicker. In the Predator's trophy room, there's a skull that doesn't belong to a xenomorph or any other familiar creature. It's actually the skull of a harvester from Independence Day. The Harvesters are the aliens that attacked Earth in both the original Independence Day and its sequel. Usually, their natural appearance is hidden by biomechanical suits, but concept art and certain shots showed what they look like underneath, and the skull in Badlands matches perfectly. So what does that mean? Well, it implies that at some point, a predator actually killed one of the Independence Day aliens and kept its skull as a trophy. That's a massive Easter egg because it retroactively links the Predator and Independence Day franchises together, at least in a loose way. Now, does that mean a full crossover is happening? Probably not right away. But since both properties are owned by Disney through 20th Century Studios, it's technically possible. The studio clearly enjoys throwing in these kinds of teases to see how fans react, and honestly, the idea of predators facing off against harvesters isn't too far-fetched. The predators thrive on hunting the toughest opponents, and the harvesters are an alien race bent on galactic domination. That would be a pretty epic clash. The tricky part is continuity. Predator 2, for example, takes place in 1997, just a year after the events of Independence Day. In that movie's world, nobody mentions a global alien invasion, which doesn't really add up if you're trying to connect the timelines. But Hollywood has never been shy about bending continuity for cool crossovers. Look at how Alien vs. Predator handled things. It wasn't perfect, but it gave fans a mashup they'd wanted for years. If nothing else, the Easter egg in Predator Badlands keeps alive the idea that Independence Day isn't completely forgotten. Even if we never get a proper Independence Day 3, the franchise is still influencing sci-fi storytelling in small ways. It's also a smart way to remind audiences about the Harvesters as potential threats if Disney ever wanted to revive the franchise down the line. And who knows, if Predator Badlands does well and fans love the crossover tease, maybe executives will start thinking about a bigger shared universe. At the end of the day, though, Emmerich's comments make it clear he doesn't think he'll be the one steering the ship anymore. With Disney holding the keys, and with Will Smith unlikely to come back after his character's death, the Independence Day series might just stay dormant for a while. But even though Resurgence stumbled, the legacy of the first movie is strong enough that people keep talking about it. That's why these Easter eggs resonate. They tap into nostalgia and spark speculation about what could be. So to wrap it up, Roland Emmerich has basically shut the door on Independence Day 3 with Will Smith, pointing out the challenges of rights ownership and continuity. Resurgence already proved that the franchise struggles without Smith at its center, and the box office numbers didn't justify continuing. But at the same time, Predator Badlands has unexpectedly breathed new life into the conversation by linking itself to Independence Day through the Harvester Skull Easter egg. Whether that connection ever grows into a full crossover or just stays a fun detail is anyone's guess. What's clear is that Independence Day still matters in the broader sci-fi landscape. It's remembered for its spectacle, its characters, and its impact on blockbuster filmmaking. Even though the sequel didn't work, the franchise refuses to fully disappear, and with studios increasingly eager to build shared universes, it wouldn't be shocking if one day the Harvesters return, whether it's in their own movie, a Predator crossover, or maybe even a reimagined Independence Day down the line. Until then, fans will just have to keep debating what might have been and catching those little nods when they appear in other places. Well, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. We'll see you next time.